And we are chatting with Mike Miranda and Ruth Unger of the Mammals. And thanks so much for chatting with us here on WRCT and WVUD and WMCK.FM and WUTC.
You're very welcome.
Great to be here.
Well, the reason that we're chatting is that you guys will be appearing in the Calliope House Concert Series Saturday, February 9th at 7:30 p.m. at the Carnegie Lecture Hall in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh. Have you guys been to Pittsburgh before?
We've been through a couple times. In fact, I believe we played that series with Ruthie's dad and stepmom, Jay Unger and Molly Mason.
Yeah.
That was maybe 10 years ago or so. It's been a little while.
I suppose we should be nice to the people listening in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or other places. Where can people find more information about the Mammals? Let's just get this plug out of the way early.
Well, our online headquarters is themammals.love, L-O-V-E.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, people refer to you guys as gentle activists. How does that play out?
Well, I guess it's sort of laced through all of our work, just the way we see the world and relate to it. On a more practical level, this last December we released 5 new singles, and we thought with the music industry changing rapidly in terms of how people consume music and the fact that it's virtually impossible to sell music anymore, we thought, well, how can we get this music out there? We're not going to stop making music. How do we get it out there and have it make an impact and have it spread to the people we're interested in getting it to? So we came up with this idea to release these songs for $3 a piece on a website called bandcamp.com and earmark the funds, whatever does come in per song, to a different cause that we're passionate about, people who we believe are doing unique and important work in the world. And the songs are still available for free if people want them and they're used to getting music that way, but it was an opportunity to reach out to our community and say, hey, let's support these great folks. And then vice versa, the network and community of these various organizations get turned on to the sort of work that we're doing. Not all the songs are specifically political, but some of them lean that way. It is more about connecting dots and creating community and shining a light on some important work out there.
I think that gets to sort of what was behind a lot of the 60 Folks scare that I lived through too. I mean, that idea of writing these songs that would get people thinking about things.
Yeah, that was something we learned from the great Pete Seeger, how to get people thinking and active and involved. And somehow a song holds a very specific space for people to do all those things at once. And we're learning more about it all the time, how to connect with people and get the wheels turning as artists and parents and people. But yeah, we have a lot of great mentors to follow the lead of.
Well, Ruth, Mike suggested that a track that we should play off of that list of singles is One Vine. I think it's one that you're listed as the author of. Tell us about that song.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly when I wrote One Vine. It was a song that started off in a whole different form. It really evolved as it went. But it's a song that is a tribute to unity and connectedness. It's a song that touches on the themes of nature. And Mike and I think a lot of people listening hopefully believe that, not only believe, but just feel that human beings are part of nature and part of the world and not some separate entity. And it's important that we, make decisions and act with that in mind. So this song, One Vine, it's just all about how we're all connected, to the plants and animals and to each other.
All right, let's let the folks listen to One Vine, one of the singles for a cause that the Mammals have released.
the power of the sun. Hey, hey, blooming in the sunshine. Stronger stalk wrapped around this solid rock. Hey, hey, blooming in the sunshine. We're all on one vine.
That was the Mammals' One Vine, one of their singles for a cause, which are available out at their Bandcamp site. How long have the Mammals been around?
Well, this band has been around in one way or another. We started it in 2001, but we didn't call ourselves the Mammals the entire time. That was a band that was formed originally by me and Mike and our friend Tao Rodriguez Seeger, and we had a lot of different folks along the way who played bass or drums or added in various ways, but it was a trio at the core that performed mostly as a quintet with bass and drums. And then when we parted ways with Tao, he started playing under his own name, and we started playing as Mike and Ruthie. And it's only a couple of years ago that we started making ours act into a bigger band again and started to bring back some of the energy that reminded us so much of the Mammals. And so we're calling them the Mammals again. And that's as of 2017.
So when you and Mike are coming through Pittsburgh, are you going to be touring as a quintet or a sextet?
Yeah,
or?
It's a 5-piece, yeah, quintet. That's
So,
how we tour, almost all the time.
So does that mean you're going to have pedal steel and organ?
No, we usually go either or.
Drums and piano or organ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your music is really interesting to me because it retains some of that nods back to tradition, but it definitely advances things.
Hey, I have a question. I know you're interviewing us, but you mentioned the 60s folk scare, and I've heard it referred to that way for so many years, and I've never really had anyone tell me, why is the word scare in there? Is
Uh,
that sort of ironic?
it's ironic. It's simply an attempt at humor by old farts like me. Okay, there's no
Is it
dick.
sort of like riffing on the Red Scare or some
Yes,
other scare?
exactly.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it was officially referred to as the folk boom. But Dick Nixon, I'm sure, thought of it as a scary thing.
Right.
Well, yeah, exactly. I resonate with that a bit. Sometimes I've spoken to friends who are performing on the same circuit as us and have said, "Oh, I'm too scared to sing anything that's political," and
Nah.
that's just interesting. It can be scary, but at the same time, it isn't scary for us because it's how we've always been, and we've never really sat down and decided whether it was a good economical or career move or whatever. It's what we've always done, and it's how we came into the business this way from the start. So I'm glad we don't have to deal with that nervous feeling that other people may have.
No, no, Ruthie, you just sort of described me one of the reasons why your music has the roots going back to that time. It is that sort of sense of idealism, that music is a way of connecting with everybody.
Yeah, it's true. And I don't really consider it like a choice. Like, well, should I touch on this or that? I mean, we do make choices when we write songs, not as to whether they reflect the real intense stuff in our lives, but just how to put that in a song. Like you mentioned that one review we got recently from Scotland where they called us gentle activists, and I think that part of that is the idea that we're not like pointing fingers and singing in a negative way about what really stinks. We're more trying to shape something positive and sing about the things that we're for rather than the things that we're against. And it sounds like a simple, maybe obvious thing to say, but it really has made a difference in the songwriting and the music. Just to come from that perspective and that approach.
That's really a really cool way of putting it, that you're writing songs about the things you're for, not the things you're against. Yeah, that's a nice
Yeah, it ends
twist.
up getting the same ideas across, I think, but it feels better to sing them over and over again. And it gives, I think it feels better for us and the people listening. And there is darkness in the songs, and sometimes the hardest lines in the songs are actually questions, So we're not trying to say we know everything, but we've become increasingly aware of the questions that you got to ask.
Well, I think all across the United States. I mean, I'm based out of Pittsburgh, and I'm sure this is true in Newark, Delaware, or Chattanooga, Tennessee, the other places where this show is heard. That there's an awful lot of music where people are making music that's following in your footsteps. I mean, and I think you guys are doing things that remind me of things that like the band did back in the '70s.
Cool.
I mean, it's what's sort of behind your idea of the instrumentation you have?
Well, I love this quote that you referenced in the notes you sent us. Tradition is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of the fire.
Yeah,
I really love
that's
that.
that's from that traditional musician Gustav Mahler.
That's great. I love it. Well, it's a great quote, and it's definitely something that Ruthie and I relate to. Ruth grew up with traditional music, and I guess at some level thought nothing of it as sort of an outlier in the culture. She probably just assumed everybody knew traditional music when she was very young, and then as she got older realized, wait a minute, I am the outlier. Whereas I grew up with the radio top 20 and rock and roll and more of a mainstream musical awareness. And when we met, our worlds sort of collided in many ways, musically especially. I think our music, because of our individual backgrounds, will always have one foot in the trad and one foot in, I guess whatever new music is. And I've learned a lot about traditional music over the years, and again, vice versa for Ruthie. So so that's just the sound of our music today, of the sum of its parts, really.
And you mentioned the band. I really think that part of the influence is that we've lived, for a long, more than 10 years, almost 20 years, we've lived in the Woodstock, New York community. And, we played at Levon's Barn a number of times, and we hang out with Amy Helm sometimes and a bunch of other people around here who have maybe a certain regional sound, actually, that we all are pooling together on.
I mean, there are other bands like you out there. I mean, I think one of my favorites is Anchorage, Alaska's Super Saturated Sugar Strings. I don't know if you've heard them, but it's like this whole idea of bringing together, sort of some traditional ideas with some modern musical ideas, and you get some really cool new stuff. And I think that certainly is true of your new record, Sunshiner. Well, it's not that new. It came out, March of 2018?
Yeah,
came out
April.
April, yeah. 420, actually.
How much fun was that, putting that together? Because the whole record sounds really, really interesting.
Thank you. We have a sort of, we've been doing this so long, like Ruthie said, almost 20 years, and we've worked with a lot of different musicians over the years. But the team we have in place right now is pretty special. In fact, before we transitioned back to calling it the Mammals, we made a record with some of the usual suspects. It came out as a Mike and Ruthie record, but it was called Bright As You Can. And we had this co-producer named Adam Armstrong, who was just in his mid-20s at the time. And that record just came out so great. That was in 2015. And we thought, I really want to keep this team together, this energy going. And then we bandied this idea about making a Mammals record, and it just seemed like a no-brainer to call the same team back. And we have our own modest studio above our garage here in the Catskills. It's very small and cute, but the results we get out of it are pretty phenomenal. So the idea was just keep this team working, keep it moving. What songs do we have? What makes a Mammals record versus a Mike and Ruthie record, and all that. And what we tend to do is just throw a lot of songs in the pot. There's 14 songs on Sunshiner, but I think we recorded 24. And then we had some options for what type of record we wanted to make and what face we wanted to put forward and all that. So the 5 singles that you mentioned at the beginning of this interview were also called from that same session. But I think having our own studio and being off the clock enables us to try a lot of ideas out and cover a lot of ground that we probably wouldn't be able to if we were working with a limited budget, limited time, limited space.
We're chatting with Ruth and Mike from the Mammals, and they're talking about their record that came out in April of 2018, which is called Sunshiner. And guys, I'm curious, what are some of the things you find most satisfying about working on a studio recording versus performing live?
Well, it can be really fun to, as Mike was describing, get a bunch of really great musicians all together. So the experience of just being together all day without traveling and, just sort of you set up and you get to leave everything set up for a while, which that's unusual. Most of our playing together is, for an hour or two and then load it back in the van. So there's just something really more inspiring creatively to just taking over a big room or, recording studio and letting your energy develop over a few days and trying things. It's a really nice experience, and usually, there are always frustrating moments where you're not sure what you're doing, parts where you feel like you wish you were more prepared or you wish you had some, more inspiration, but then there are always these really high points where and they're coming, they just happen, and you just have these high moments where you realize, like, we just recorded something unique and we got it recorded, and now that's something we'll enjoy forever.
I think with music and with studio stuff and live stuff, you're always trying to capture that lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say it's easier to do it in one place or another, but in the studio, gosh, it's not easier there. But I think you might have a better chance of trying to conjure that because you can take your time and stretch out and really, you don't. It can be dangerous to dissect things too much and get too much under the microscope. But I think we all, as songwriters, musicians, you have this vision of how you want your song to be portrayed to the world, and you and your friends are trying to create that, or maybe it's something you didn't even envision that is beyond your imagination, but something very, very exciting about that part of what we do, and it's incredibly rewarding. You don't get it on every song. You don't get it just how you thought, or maybe you thought it was supposed to be that way then, but then a year later you're like, God, why did we do it that way? So it's just evolving. Everything's evolving with music, and recordings are just, a document of a song on a particular day.
Yeah, a snapshot of how it came out on Thursday. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and sometimes you love that version as a definitive version, and sometimes you never want to hear it again, and it's better live, and all of the above and everything in between. But we're just grateful that we've got to create a life in music for all these years, and music that has been our original songs by and large. We do a fair amount of traditional music as well, and old fiddle tunes, and sort of put our stamp on them. But somehow we've been able to carve a living playing music that has been interesting to us.
Well, that makes me jealous.
Yeah, well, it's not an easy life, but you learn how to make it work, and we live very simply and cut corners wherever possible, and somehow together. The older I get, the more grateful I am that it is our reality, because I did probably take it for granted as a younger person, and I'm just grateful we've been able to do it this long.
But it's also a hoot to perform live, isn't it? Because then you're connecting with the audience right then and there.
Yeah, we've sort of had generally do a lot of touring. It's pretty rare for us to have a weekend where we're not on some stage. But this fall, we actually had quite a bit of time off, and I found myself becoming quite anxious. And then as soon as we were back on the road, we just got back from Scotland and played 10 days out in England and Scotland. And this past weekend, we were just in Vermont for 2 shows, and I really feel more like myself when I'm on the road and meeting people and connecting with people and having that energy exchange with an audience. I mean, it's such a big part of, maybe more so than I even realized, of my identity, is having that it's partly a little bit of an adrenaline rush maybe, but also just my spirit craves that communion with the greater music community, whether it's other bands, but I think especially audiences, and having that exchange. I didn't realize how much I missed it until it was gone for a couple of weeks. I thought, who am I?
Well, you're Mike of the Mammals, and she's Ruthie of the Mammals.
Yeah,
we're
thanks for the reminder.
We're really enjoying this conversation. I just got to ask you, Ruthie, one last question before we wrap up. What about the next generation? Are they into music? Are your kids into music?
Our kids, yeah, they love music. I think that I've been reflecting a lot on kids and music. We were playing, as Mike said, out in the UK, and the skill level in the sing-alongs was pretty high. I started to realize that I've met some millennials who say they don't sing, and I know there's people of every generation who may have been told not to sing or thought they couldn't sing, but I think it's getting more pronounced, this just accepting the idea that maybe music is not a part of you. I think that music education, or just incorporating music, having teachers who sing, even in the lower grades, it's really important. Just because I think it's really just a part of who we are as people, and it's been for hundreds of years. We're called the Mammals, and at one point I was in an aquarium noting that mother whales sing to their babies and stuff. So
Oh.
I think it's just like it's not even a human thing. It's just a mammalian thing, or maybe the birds sing to each other too. So I really think it's important that music is nurtured in everybody, big and small, and that we get to feel like it's not about whether you can write a hit song or whether you can put together a career in music. It's about just experiencing it on whatever level you can, and not just in your earbuds through your Bluetooth speaker downloaded from the internet, but maybe something that you could really feel in the air between you and another person.
Yeah, and also I think it might be worth pointing out that while we are performers and writers, there's a lot of room in the music industry to be involved. Whether you, like Richard, you have this radio show, and there are people who volunteer at festivals or learn how to do lights or sound or drive a bus. I mean, I think there's ways to be involved beyond just being a performer, and I think I should keep reminding people of that as well, because it's not as narrow of a field as people might make it out to be.
And that's the career side of music. You're totally right. And then there's also infinite ways of having music be part of your life if you are doing none of those. Like if you're just like,
how about just going to a concert?
Yeah, or just like humming while you're doing the dishes or something.
Yeah, right.
Well, speaking of going to a concert, the reason we're chatting with you is because you'll be appearing in the Calliope House concert series Saturday, February 9th at 7:30 p.m. at the Carnegie Lecture Hall in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh. We're really looking forward to having you in town.
Thank you. And it's much more fun than humming doing the dishes, I think. The concert, we're going to set the bar there. It's going to be more fun than just humming to yourself doing housework. Although that could be fun for some folks. I like to make our concerts as exciting as possible. We're going to have a really wonderful piano player with us, great bass player and drummer, and Mike plays banjo and guitar. I play fiddle and guitar, sing harmony, and have a lot of new songs to share with you guys out in Pittsburgh. It's been a long time since we've been there, so hope people come out, and it's going to be a really fun show.
And we promise to get you singing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. And
thanks for helping us spread the word.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And could one of you remind people who are not in Pittsburgh how they can track down your tour schedule and learn more about the Mammals?
Absolutely. You can find us online at themammals.love, Love at the end there. And we're also on all those other sites where you stream and look at feeds and stuff.
And we should also give a plug if you're traveling in the Northeast or you live in the Northeast. In the Hudson Valley, Ruthie and I host our own festival called The Hoot. The Summer Hoot is generally the end of August, before Labor Day weekend. It's become a really fun community gathering, folk festival. Give what you can at the door. We don't want anyone to feel excluded. So The Hoot is what it's called, and the website is hoot.love.
Cool. I like the fact that your websites all end with .love.
The strange thing is that, for whatever reason, we're still stuck with mikeandruthie.com. You think that would be the obvious .love. We haven't had time to... Maybe that would just be a little too much, actually. Let's keep that one .com just to not gross anybody out.
Well, let's close down the interview by playing a track off of Sunshiner. What would you like us to play for the people?
Oh, man, I don't know. It could be dealer's choice. You did One Vine already. That was beautiful.
Maybe the first track would be fun.
Yeah, maybe something a little bit more upbeat. The first track is called Make It True, right?
Yeah. Well, let's give a listen to Ruth and Mike and all their collaborators, the Mammals, with Make It True here on Whiskey Before Breakfast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.